An anime about Vikings, Norsemen speaking Japanese, uncharted waters even by anime standards. I wouldn't blame you if you had second thoughts about Vinland Saga initially, but we all know what happened to those mixed feelings, don't we? The show went on air in the summer of 2019, and before long, the world was in raptures. They were calling it the year's best anime before the year or even the anime was over. We're now in 2020, and it's been a while since Vinland Saga wrapped up its 24th and final episode, and people still can't shut up about how great it was. Well, who can blame them? It's the kind of special story where every aspect comes together flawlessly. It has an uncommon plot about a young boy on a journey of revenge in the company of his father's killer. The story unfolding around them is based on real events in history, lending it its own air of authenticity. The animation is top-notch, with the folks behind Attack on Titan doing a fine job of transporting us back to Viking territory. And it also has some of the best characters modern anime has to offer. And by that, I mean Askeladd. There hasn't been an antagonist as charismatic and memorable as Askeladd in a while now. He's bad, he's quite mad, and it's impossible to hate him. It's not for nothing that people are calling him the best anime character of 2019, and even one of the best of all time. I mean, I couldn't agree more. To understand the effect Askeladd has had on viewers, let's first talk a little bit about his character and his story. Needless to say, a spoiler alert is now in effect. Askeladd is a mercenary. He leads a small army of hard-fighting, hard-drinking Danish Viking warriors. He has piercing blue eyes, short blonde hair, and a neatly trimmed beard. He first appears as a 33-year-old, but looks much older. He's got a muscled but not too large build. He wears a black armored vest and wields a large sword. There's absolute authority in the way he commands his men, but he's clearly not one of them. Right from the beginning, something sets him apart from their rough and easy ways. The story begins when Askeladd is hired for a job by Floki, the commander of a Viking military unit that's in direct service to the Danish king Sven. That job is to kill Thors, a deserter and the father of our young hero Thorfinn. After Thors is killed, Thorfinn joins Askeladd's gang of mercenaries, all in the hope of one day becoming strong enough to avenge his father. The young boy earns his keep by doing all of Askeladd's dirty work. The story follows Thorfinn and Askeladd over the next 11 years as they join the Danish invasion of England. What makes Askeladd such an interesting character study are his numerous layers. As the story progresses, these layers come off one by one, revealing a different aspect of him each time. At the beginning, he's just another soldier of fortune, willing to do any dirty deed if the price is right. His men are no different from the other mercenary groups around. They loot, plunder, and kill at will. Women, children, innocents, they don't spare anybody. Askeladd himself is a cruel man. Just watch him enjoy himself as he cuts off the fingers of a captured enemy with a pair of shears. He couldn't care less about right and wrong. He has no scruples and doesn't follow a moral code. He's rotten through and through, and there's no veil of fantasy to make you think otherwise. And yet, he has honor. Before killing Thors, Askeladd gives him his word that he will spare his son. And he keeps his promise even when his companions urge him to get rid of the boy before he grows up to be a real threat. In the encounter with Thors, you sense Askeladd's deep admiration for his honorable opponent. Not enough to stop him from getting the job done, but perhaps enough to make him accept Thorfinn's presence in his life. Askeladd's also very smart. In fact, he gets by more on his calculating, scheming, manipulative brain than on fighting prowess or brute force. You rarely see him flustered. Even when pushed into a corner, he has the ability to think quickly and come up with a workable solution. He's a great reader of men, as you see in his negotiations with Floki. Askeladd not only gets away with making fun of the military commander and killing one of his men, he also gets him to agree his conditions and his price. This early scene's important because it establishes Askeladd as the top boss. He continues to impress us with his intellect, and by the latter half of the show, he's proved himself to be a top military strategist with a keen political mind. Perhaps even a kingmaker, who knows? With his intelligence and his ambition, he takes the story in a direction few might have expected at the beginning. I mean, that's not to say Askeladd's not a fighter though. He's extremely skilled with the sword and adept at using other weapons. He can hold his own against 50 men, and in all their duels so far, Thorfinn's never got the better of him. When you consider that Thorfinn managed to inflict a serious injury on the ridiculously strong Thorkel in their very first contest, his losses to Askeladd speak a good deal of the latter's fighting prowess. Vinland Saga's got a lot of battles, which makes sense because it's based on battle manga after all. But it doesn't have too many one-on-one fights, something many viewers might have expected from the anime. Now this doesn't take away from the overall viewing experience, rather the anime is enhanced by being more than just episode after episode of fighting. However, in the few character-centric fights that there are, Askeladd impresses us not just with his physicality, but with his mental toughness too.
この度のウェールズ討伐、果たして最良の選択と申せましょうか。
In terms of character development, Askeladd shows incredible growth all in the space of 24 episodes, which is a very short period in the anime universe. Some fights in DBZ are probably longer. Askeladd's evolution's best explained through his interactions and connections with other characters. I mean, if you take Thorfinn for instance, we all know how Thorfinn feels about Askeladd, and by all appearances, Askeladd doesn't care much for the brooding, sullen kid who follows him around either. It doesn't seem to bother him if Thorfinn ends up dead on one of the many suicide missions he sends him on. At the same time, despite their bitter history, the two share a rare camaraderie. This is seen in the way Askeladd humours Thorfinn's repeated challenges to a duel, and in the way he points out the youngsters' shortcomings as they fight. As twisted as it might sound, this makes Askeladd something of a mentor to Thorfinn, perhaps even a father figure actually. Such a complicated relationship between a criminal and his victim might be hard to imagine, but Askeladd and Thorfinn make it seem very, very real. The bond between Askeladd and his men is equally telling. There comes a time when the men choose their own safety over their loyalty to their commander. Askeladd treats this betrayal not with the hurt and anger you might expect, but with complete indifference. And he shows no pain when the men face a brutal end as a consequence of their choice. Is this because Askeladd's just cold and unfeeling? Not entirely. His disdain for his fellow warriors and for Vikings in general does go deeper, all the way to his experiences in childhood, and yet he's not completely without compassion. We see that he's capable of forgiving a cowardly subordinate who turned against him, and while he gives off the feeling that he cares for no one, he shares a quiet spirit of brotherhood with Bjorn, his most loyal follower. But it's in his interactions with the young Prince Canute that we see Askeladd's ambition and true powers come out. As the unwanted youngest son of King Sven, Canute is another fabulously written character. He starts off as a spineless royal afraid of his heritage and desperately seeking refuge in God and religion. But the trajectory his character takes over the course of the anime rivals that of Askeladd. Yet it's when they come together, a rogue warrior and a double-faced royal, that all hell breaks loose and the story reaches its crescendo. You have to watch it to believe it. As it is with memorable characters in anime, there's usually a powerful backstory. Think of the Naruto franchise's Uchiha Madara, whose Japanese voice actor coincidentally lends his voice to Askeladd. Madara becomes the unrelenting warmonger he is after watching his younger brothers and his clan fall to the flames of war. Similarly, Askeladd's childhood shapes his adulthood. He's born to a warrior father he hates and a slave mother he loves. Because of his mother's lowly status, his father Olaf doesn't even bother giving him a name. Askeladd's actually a nickname. It means one covered in ashes. On a side note here, the character Askeladd's actually based on the Norwegian folklore hero Askeladd, or the Ashlad. He's the youngest of three brothers and seems naive and stupid, but is actually the cleverest of them all and the one who always wins at the end. True to form, the flashbacks in Vinland Saga show the young slave Askeladd rise from the bottom of the pile. Relying slowly on his guile and cunning, he ultimately makes his father pay for his mother's suffering. But as an adult, he curiously shows no hesitation in identifying himself as the son of Olaf. Perhaps the name means that little to him. The other factor that shapes Askeladd's character is his mixed heritage. This leads him to his greatest predicament, but we'll leave it at that, or we'll surely spoil the end for you.
かの地の産物といえば奴隷ぐらいのものだからな。
The biggest thing going for Askeladd is that he's all too human, which makes him believable. He's the last thing from an overpowered villain, and he stays real till the very end. For all his impressive qualities, Askeladd's not invincible. In fact, it's far from it. For most of the show, we see him on the run from Thorkel and his much larger army, and for all his careful planning, he finds himself caught in a bind one too many times. In the face of adversity, Askeladd's not above running away from his enemies, and while he may have it in him to single-handedly fight 50 men, it doesn't mean he comes out of it unscathed. Askeladd's also not above using cheap tricks either. He uses Thorfinn as a hostage to catch Thors off guard. He meddles in Thorkel's battle with Canute's army before he senses an opportunity for himself. The way he comes to be Canute's mentor and advisor is also full of lies and deceit too, and his reasons for supporting Canute as a future monarch are selfish to say the least. This show makes no pretense that Askeladd is anything but a villain. It doesn't attempt to whitewash him or give him redeeming qualities just for the heck of it. He might possess some of those good qualities like wisdom, courage, efficiency, but he uses them all unapologetically to further his own goal and agenda. Askeladd's one of the most multifaceted characters to come off the anime block in recent times. The Vinland Saga manages such a ranged and nuanced character arc in such a short time is perhaps its biggest achievement. Askeladd does some terrible things. He schemes till the very end. He orchestrates one of the most satisfying finales in anime history, and he totally steals Thorfinn's thunder. Because make no mistake, Thorfinn might be the story's protagonist, but Askeladd owns the first 24 episodes like nobody else does, and that's definitely worth something. Now that you've heard enough of the amazing Askeladd, go check out Vinland Saga if you haven't done so already, because no matter how much we dissect his character here, there's no greater fun than watching him come alive on your screens. I've said it before, and I will say it again, he's easily one of my top 3 anime characters of 2019. Thanks for watching this video, I hope you enjoyed it. Give it a like if you did, and you can also leave a comment in the section below. I'd love to hear from you as well, and as usual, subscribe to ViniiTube for more anime content. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.